Ever wonder why workplace conflicts really happen? Like, is it just clashing personalities, or is there some invisible architecture driving every single disagreement, promotion, and decision in your office? Today, we're going to question the whole idea that workplace disagreements are just inevitable accidents. Because, well, they aren't. They're actually the highly predictable results of underlying systems that most people just never truly understand.
Welcome to This Explainer. I am so thrilled to be your guide today as we take a deep dive into our source material to really demystify the unspoken dynamics of the workplace. Look, whether you're in a scrappy little startup or a massive multinational, managing people effectively requires way more than just technical know-how. So we're going to decode the exact theories and models that drive human behavior at work.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll be moving through a four-part chain reaction. First, the dynamics of power. Second, navigating organizational politics. Third, models for conflict resolution. And finally, ethical leadership in action.
All right, Section 1, the dynamics of power.
To thrive in a modern organization, we really have to reframe this word. Power isn't inherently about force or coercion. It's actually just the neutral capacity to influence behavior and outcomes. Managers use this literally every single day to assign tasks, motivate teams, and, get things done. It's not inherently bad, it's honestly just the physics of the workplace. We're going to break this down using French and Raven's famous 5 bases of power. First up is legitimate power. This is authority drawn entirely from an official title. Think of that manager who assigns you a massive project simply because, well, their door placard says manager. Their title grants them that exact right to direct outcomes. Next up, we have reward power. This is the ability to influence behavior through positive reinforcement. Leaders use this when they offer incentives like juicy bonuses, salary bumps, promotions, or, honestly, even just public recognition. Basically, if you can give someone something they genuinely want, you hold reward power over them. On the flip side is coercive power, which is the ability to impose discipline when expectations just aren't met. Now, while this might get you really fast short-term results, it comes with a massive warning label. Relying on fear will absolutely destroy trust and just tank your team's morale over time. The fourth type is expert power. This is influence born from specialized knowledge, unique skills, and real-world experience. It brilliantly illustrates why modern organizations value their top talent so much. An experienced software engineer, or say a financial consultant, influences major decisions simply because people willingly follow experts they trust. And the fifth and arguably most potent type is referent power. This is influence based purely on personal charisma, integrity, and respect. Leaders who inspire others through their character generate deep organizational commitment rather than just compliance out of fear. Along with expert power, modern organizations highly prize referent power because, well, it creates teams that actually want to follow you. Beyond French and Raven, there's another fascinating framework we need to look at: power dependence theory. This basically states that your power increases based on how much others rely on you. Think about that one IT cybersecurity specialist in your office. Even if they don't have a fancy executive title, their influence is massive because absolutely everyone relies on their unique knowledge to keep the company running safely. And this creates an absolutely crucial distinction in every office: formal versus informal power. Formal power comes from the organizational chart, your official job title. But informal power, that develops through relationships, trust, and professional networks. Employees with strong interpersonal relationships can often influence massive organizational decisions without ever holding a formal senior title. Pretty wild, right?
Moving right along, Section 2, navigating organizational politics.
So what happens when all that power we just talked about is actively exercised in the workplace? Well, you get politics. Now, that word usually leaves a bad taste in our mouths, but we really need to strip away that negative stigma. Yes, negative politics like manipulation and rumors definitely exist. But positive politics is actually a vital organizational tool. It involves building relationships, networking, and collaborating to influence decisions for the mutual benefit of both the individual and the organization. To understand how this plays out practically, let's look at Henry Mintzberg's political games. It really helps to view office dynamics as actual games people are playing. Employees naturally play the alliance-building game by forming strong professional bonds to hit common goals. They play the sponsorship game by seeking guidance and support from senior leaders to grow their careers. And managers? Well, they often play the empire-building game, attempting to increase their department's influence, budget, and authority. Recognizing these games helps you understand the hidden gears turning in your office. Which brings us to Section 3, Models for Conflict Resolution.
Now, when you have different people utilizing their power bases and playing organizational politics, their interests are naturally going to clash. But just like power, we need to reframe conflict. It's not always a bad thing. Constructive conflict actually encourages creativity, innovation, and much sharper decision-making. Destructive conflict is what reduces productivity and morale. In fact, if your workplace has an absolute absence of conflict, it might just mean employees are too afraid to share new ideas or challenge the status quo.
So, when conflict does happen, the Thomas Kilmann conflict mode instrument maps out 5 distinct styles to handle it. Competing focuses on your own objectives, which is super useful in emergencies. Compromising means both sides give up a little something for a fair outcome. Avoiding postpones the issue, and accommodating sacrifices your own interests to maintain harmony. But collaborating, working together to fully satisfy everyone's interests, is generally considered the absolute best style for building long-term mutual trust.
Building on that, the dual concern model beautifully illustrates that effective conflict management isn't just about winning, it's a tightrope act. Leaders must balance their drive for organizational objectives with a genuine concern for the well-being of others. Leaders who only care about themselves create toxic environments for sure, but those who find this delicate balance, they build incredibly strong, resilient teams. And that leads us to our final part, Section 4, Ethical Leadership in Action.
Look, understanding power in politics is really only half the battle. True resolution lies in ethical application. Successful leaders rarely rely on raw authority. Instead, they pivot to logical persuasion and open consultation. They champion transparent communication to clear up misunderstandings, and when things get really tough, they bring in neutral mediation or structured negotiation rather than just forcing an outcome. They persuade by explaining the benefits and actually involving employees in the planning process. However, as we apply these tactics, we have to stay vigilant. Even in the most inclusive workplaces, unconscious bias and stereotypes can still unfairly dictate who holds power and exactly how authority is perceived. Promoting diversity and inclusive leadership isn't just a corporate talking point. It's absolutely essential to ensure power is distributed fairly and that organizations actually benefit from a broad range of perspectives. Basically, ethics must serve as your compass. True leadership isn't about controlling people or manipulating them for personal gain. No way. It is about influencing them with total integrity. It requires honesty, fairness, accountability, and respect. At the end of the day, employees naturally trust and follow leaders who use their influence to protect the interests of everyone involved.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, but I want to leave you with one final thought to take into the office tomorrow morning. How will you use your power and your politics to improve collaboration? Because now that you can see the invisible dynamics at play, you actually have the ability to change them for the better. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.